back to 3books2go. I'm Christine with the Cold Lake Public Library, and with my two cats. We'll see if either of them decides to make an appearance in the video today. And this is a series where I make recommendations of 3 items that you can use your Cold Lake Track Pack library card to borrow on our digital e-services. And each week I choose a theme, and this week the theme is nature. I am looking out the window at snow, as you probably are as well, unless you're watching from somewhere other than Cold Lake. Hi, Mom. And I would love to see something green. I think it's almost the end of April. We're getting ready for spring. Come on, green things. So I chose 3 books this week that all celebrate nature in different ways. And there's a couple of them that are available as audiobooks. One of them is also an ebook. And there's also one that is a beautiful art book that I'm really excited to introduce you guys to her. I had one little bit of housekeeping to mention too. It was brought up to me that although I invite everyone to leave comments, we have our comments turned off, but the comments are only turned off on YouTube. So I invite you to click the link down below to visit us on our Facebook page, and there you could leave comments and join the conversation. So for this week, let's get started. 3 beautiful green nature books. The first nature book I want to tell you guys about today is called The Old Ways, A Journey on Foot by Robert Macfarlane. And the author, Robert Macfarlane, is an academic. He studies at Emmanuel College at Cambridge in the UK. And according to the website, his study is on the interrelations of literature and landscape. So based on this book and other ones by him and interviews with him, it looks to me like his big area of interest is the relationship between the land and the language that grows in any particular place. So the words that reflect the worldview of the people and their relationship with the land. But the reason I chose this book, The Old Ways, is because it's specifically about going for walks. And that's something, at least in my neighborhood, that lots of people are still doing. It's one of the things that we can continue to do right now for our own mental and physical health, and just to sort of get out of the house once in a while. And so this is a great one for that, because he's very introspective and thinks and talks quite a bit about what walking does for us in terms of our relationship to the places where we live, but also he makes reference to another quote where he talks about going out to go in. So walking as a kind of meditative or a way to write, a way to get at what we're really thinking about, what's going on in our minds. So I'm just going to read the little caption on the back. Following the tracks, holloways, drove roads, and sea paths that form part of a vast, ancient network of routes crisscrossing the British Isles and beyond, Robert Macfarlane discovers a lost world, a landscape of the feet and the mind, of pilgrimage and ritual, of stories and ghosts, above all, of the places and journeys which inspire and inhabit our imaginations. So I've been listening to this one on audiobook, which is how it's available through the library. And I think it's a great way to listen to this one because, one, you can take it with you. So if you're going for walks outside, you can pop in your earphones and take it with you, which is perfect. Or if you're stuck inside and can't go for a walk, it's a way of going for a walk vicariously. So here we are in Hoopla. Hoopla is the library platform that offers the Robert Macfarlane titles, and this one here is The Old Ways, the one that I'm recommending for you today. I did want to point out we do have some of his other titles as well. They're all really good. You could start anywhere. The Lost Words is one that talks about words that have fallen out of usage, and so he's working on bringing them back because they're connected to concepts or worldviews, and we might lose the concept and the worldview if we lose the word that's connected to it. So that's another quite interesting one. They're all available as audiobooks, which, as I had mentioned before, it's great for taking with you on a walk. It's also great if you're working on a project in the house or your hands are busy but you want to have something on to listen to. And then another thing that's nice about audiobooks, I find, especially for titles like this that are kind of slower paced and thoughtful and relaxing, is they're really helpful if you're having trouble falling asleep. So sometimes we turn to TV or we do all kinds of things to try to relax or get ready for bed. But the nice thing about an audiobook is you can keep the lights off, you can just put headphones on, and you can even set a sleep timer so that it'll shut itself off after 15 minutes or half an hour, and it'll just read you to sleep. So that's really lovely. I did want to say too, these ones are read by wonderful professional narrators, but they're not read by the author, and sometimes I like to find some interviews or things with the author so that I can actually hear their voice and hear them talk about their own ideas themselves. So I wanted to point out there is a BBC podcast that's about taking walks. And so the podcast itself is also great for listening to from home or taking with you on walks. All of the episodes I've listened to have been great, but there's one from 2013, which was around when this book, The Old Ways, came out. And so it's about a half-hour long, where she takes a walk with the author himself, Robert Macfarlane. And it's great. It's really lovely to hear him talk about his own work and to hear them go for a walk in the English countryside. The second nature book that I'm going to recommend is one of my personal favorites. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And Dr. Kimmerer is also an academic. In her case, she's a botanist, she's a plant ecologist, and a professor at the State University of New York in their College of Environmental Science and Forestry. She's the founding director of the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment. She's an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. She's a mother, she's an advocate for sustainability, and she's a writer, and lots more. I'm going to read to you the summary that the publisher provides for Braiding Sweetgrass. As a leading researcher in the field of biology, Robin Wall Kimmerer understands the delicate state of our world. But as an active member of the Potawatomi Nation, she senses and relates to the world through a way of knowing far older than any science. In Braiding Sweetgrass, she intertwines these two modes of awareness, the analytic and the emotional, the scientific and the cultural, to ultimately reveal a path toward healing the rift that grows between people and nature. The woven essays that construct this book bring people back into conversation with all that is green and growing, a universe that never stops speaking to us, even when we forgot how to listen. So once again, in this title, language is really important. Robin Wall Kimmerer talks a lot in this book about learning her Indigenous language as an adult, and she talks about that shift that she has to make to go from an English language worldview to a Potawatomi worldview, and the things that she learns from making that shift. She talks about something called the grammar of animacy. So kind of like in the Macfarlane book, we see a little glimpse of what we're starting to lose when we lose words and concepts, but in this case, it's so much huger. It's not just a few words here and there. It's an entire language, an entire worldview. So that's a really important piece. She also uses this process of learning a language as well as stories from her life, connecting with the land and her life as a scientist, in order to focus on the importance of relationships. So she talks to us a lot about the responsibility that comes with those relationships, and that we receive gifts all the time from plants, from the world of plants, and that because relationships are by their nature reciprocal, she talks to us about what that responsibility is when we're in that relationship. So she uses several different wild and cultivated plants to illustrate these different ways that people can engage with plants. And she talks about that relationship as gardeners or people who gather wild plants, or as students who are learning from plants as teachers. And some of the plants that she builds the writing around include strawberries, beans, corn, different flowers like asters, goldenrods, and of course the title one, sweetgrass. So once again, Hoopla is the platform to visit to borrow Robin Wall Kimmerer's books. You can see she's got a couple titles here. Gathering Moss is her first one. That's about moss, which is her specific area of study. I haven't read that one yet, but it's on my list because I really enjoyed Braiding Sweetgrass, so I know I'll like that one too. And for Braiding Sweetgrass, you have your choice. We have it as an audiobook or as an ebook. And I did it as an audiobook a couple of summers ago. Mostly I listened to it in my car while I was driving to my pop-up library service, and that was such a nice way to do it. She reads it herself, and she has a really warm, really friendly speaking voice, and the stories in it are so personal and intimate that it just adds an extra really lovely layer to have her reading it. I do have the ebook out right now just to take a quick look at the table of contents so you can see some of the different plants that she refers to and just the structure of the book. It is nice to see how that things are laid out. So you can see that it's in 5 sections. They're all based on different parts of the life cycle of sweetgrass. So planting, tending, picking, braiding, and burning sweetgrass. And then within it you have all the different plants that she talks about and other things too. And I was going to mention that she also has a TED Talk. It's from a few years ago, from 2012, but that's definitely worth checking out and not too long. So if you wanted to just get a sense of some of her ideas and her speaking voice, then that's a great way to go. My third and final nature book recommendation is Nature Anatomy, The Curious Parts and Pieces of the Natural World by Julia Rothman. And this is one where I would say you should judge a book by its cover because it's gorgeous. And it's gorgeous on the inside too. So Julia Rothman is an artist and illustrator, and she works from her own studio in the back of her apartment in Park Slope, Brooklyn. She says she has a Wheaten Terrier named Rudy who keeps her company. She also teaches at the Surface Design and at the School of Visual Arts in New York. And she's written quite a few other books. I can point some of those out when I show you where to access this one. And this one is part of a series where it's farm anatomy, food anatomy, nature anatomy. There's a few of them in there. And I'm recommending this one because it's so fun to look at. It's beautiful. She puts a ton of detail into the drawings. I mean, they're illustrations accompanied by text. So it's a nonfiction work, and it's kind of a survey of the natural world. So it's covering a huge topic, right? So there's sections on everything from geology, so just like the basic components of the planet, of the different parts of the atmosphere, of all the different ecosystems and huge environments on our planet, and then also down into tiny little details. So then there's like parts about bugs and about microorganisms and everything in between that size and, blue whales, the most giant organisms on the planet. So it covers a little bit of everything. And I would really say it's for all ages. I mean, it doesn't go into huge depth of any one topic. It's meant to be kind of a survey of all kinds of different topics. So there's a lot of detail, but not a huge amount of depth. So it's great for any age to just pick up and flip through. And once again, here we are in Hoopla. As it turns out, all of the things that I'm recommending this week are available to borrow in Hoopla, which is nice and easy to remember. So this is all of the works that have Julia Rothman's artwork in it. And for some reason, there's two versions of the Nature Anatomy that I'm recommending. As far as I can tell, they're exactly the same. There's two records for the exact same item, so it doesn't matter which one you take out. They're both the same. I have this one out because I wanted to give you guys a little sneak preview. I think in the case of this type of a book, the artwork speaks for itself, so I just wanted you to get a sense of what it's like inside and see for yourself. So here's the table of contents, which shows you just how broad of a scope she goes into with this one. And those are all of the things that she covers. And then I'll just pull up a few pages from inside so that you have a sense too of the level of detail that we're looking at. So like I said before, she does a lot of detail. She's showing us all the different types of cloud formations and what they mean, and those things are all correct, but there's not a huge amount of text, so it's not super overwhelming or uninviting. It's very inviting and very, very pretty to flip through, but then there's also lots of good information. So really, I think it's kind of for any age group. Anyone could sit down and you could look at specific things, or you could just flip through and pick it up here and there, or read it cover to cover. Here, I'll pull up another section. This one's on trees. So this is a neat one because we are heading towards spring. The trees are going to start having leaves out again, and so it would be fun to go out and identify the different kinds of trees. So this is a good book for that kind of activity as well. And then let's see, I'll just pull up one last little section. So she also, in between each section, when she's switching from different types of birds, or pardon me, different types of animals, in this case birds, or different kinds of life forms, so trees or different areas of the book, she has these pretty pages in between that are just full page, lovely illustrations. So there you go, that gives you a sense of what's inside. You can also do bird identification. And I was going to just point out as well, so anytime you have especially a nonfiction book, but any of the books, they will have down at the bottom these subject headings. And so if you click on them, it shows you all of the books that have that same subject heading contained in our collection. And so in this case, my theme of the week is nature. So if we click on nature, it shows you we have over 3,000 titles in Hoopla on that theme, and you can even see one of the other ones I recommended is right there. So have fun exploring, and hopefully I think you'll find those ones to be really, really enjoyable and rewarding. So there you have it. Those are 3 recommendations for titles that I love that celebrate the natural world and the green growing things out there and our relationship with them. And they're helping me to be excited about the fact that those things are coming back to us. It won't snow forever, I promise. So I hope you find some that you love in there too. Julia Rothman's work is so gorgeous. Make sure you take a look at all of the things that she has out there. She's got quite the series going with this anatomy. She actually has a new one coming out later this year, Ocean Anatomy. I have it on pre-order because I am super excited. And yeah, if you have any requests for future videos, I would love to hear from you. Again, of course, the Facebook comments or my email is always at the end of the video. Feel free to send me a message. I would love to hear from you. And I have heard in the comments that people are looking for some feel-good books, some happy books, or books where you're left with a good, happy, cozy feeling. And of course, I mean, I feel that way too. I think it makes perfect sense that that's something we're wanting right now. So I'm going to keep that in mind. In the future, I may do one where I just focus on that, or I might just try to incorporate happy, feel-good books into whatever the theme is that I have going for that week. And thank you very much for that suggestion, and anything else, I would love to hear from people. So have a great week. I'll see you for week 4.